You know that 60 to 90% of all businesses and their strategies fail before they ever get off the ground. In this video, I'm going to be showing you 3 critical mistakes that most leaders, business owners, founders, and CEOs make, and how those critical mistakes doom their plans and how you can avoid them. As a leader, a founder of a startup, a CEO, or a C-suite executive in charge of executing the business plan. Once again, welcome to this episode of the CEO Leadership Strategy Series. And the topic for today is why most businesses fail. I'll be your guide on this episode. I'm Olumuyiwa Olusanya, an executive coach, consultant, and board strategist. In this video, we'll be talking about why most businesses fail. But before we dive into it, I want to ask you why. Why do you think this matters? Why is it that this topic is important to me? And I think it should be important to you too. And the truth is that it matters because of its impact on growth. The fact that most businesses, when they have failed strategies, is a time waster. They waste time, they waste money, and even dampens the morale of the CEO or the leader or the founder. And also it's talking about executive responsibility. A lot of CEOs do not even have time. About half of CEOs do not even spend time, monthly on strategy, on looking at the vision of the company. Where most CEOs, the other half, spend less than 1 hour a month to envision and to think about the strategy of their businesses. No wonder that a lot of businesses fail at the end of the day. Most of these insights, are reviewed, are things that people see at post-mortem after the business has already failed. But actually is the most common reason: lack of focus on strategy and the vision of the company. Spending enough time to envision the company, to focus on long-term strategy, rather than being distracted by mundane day-to-day running of the company. So in this video, we're going to be looking at agenda. We look at it, in four sections. The first section is to do a deep dive, as we normally do, into the topic of the day, where we look at the concepts and we look at the real issues and we discuss it thoroughly. And the next section is to look at 2 case studies that are real life case studies and learn from those case studies and things that we can do differently if we're in those shoes. And the third section is I'll be looking at answering questions, some important questions I've had in dealing with people, and I've done strategy sections, and I've done one-on-one coaching with CEOs to look at common questions that have been asked on this topic and my own take on it. And we'll wrap up with a solid call to action and what you can do differently in your business and what you can do to also inspire other leaders that look up to you as a leader. So welcome to the deep dive. So the 3 most important things I believe cause most business strategies to fail. I'll be talking of them in 3 parts. The first is lack of focus. The second is execution gaps. And the third is ignoring market dynamics. Those are the 3 things I believe that cause most business strategies to fail. So let's do a deep dive on the first one. So lack of focus. And for me, I've seen this a lot in my business experience as a corporate leader and also running business. And I think that a lot of CEOs need to know that lack of focus is a major killer. Where you're chasing too many goals, find yourself working on too many initiatives, in a market that is busy, that is very competitive. A lot of CEOs are talented, they are brilliant. And out of the enthusiasm, the energy, the drive, it's possible to go after so many things at the same time. And you spread yourself so thin, you lack focus. So ask yourself, this business, what will be our primary focus? What will be our primary business focus area? Where we'll be differentiated, we'll differentiate our service, our product, our business, will stand out in the market, and we'll be able to leverage that into other business areas once that succeeds. So it is good to have so many subsidiaries, you have so many business areas, you have so many business lines. But at the same time, you have to have focus, focusing on your strengths. Make sure that you're not chasing too many goals and too many initiatives in the market at the same time so that you can stand out. It's good for you to be known for something that you do excellently well. Then when you do that thing excellently well, you can now diversify into other areas as you establish yourself in the market with customers that you can be trusted. Recently, I was speaking with a friend who has started a business and grew it over the last 10 years to a revenue over 2 billion. And I was very proud of him, very impressed with what he has achieved. And one of the things he said, which of course I saw happen over the 10-year period. This is a business I saw happen from day one. I started from scratch with zero, from scratch, and is to focus on an area first. Started on a line of business. They established themselves in that line of business, grew customer loyalty, became very excellent at what they did, made a lot of money, created branches, different locations, the service business. And at the end of the day, after establishing themselves in that business, as they continue to interact with their loyal customers, they started seeing opportunities to diversify into different areas. And they continue to specialize in those things as they saw those opportunities. And the business continued to grow. Right now, it's now a group that does about 7 different businesses, generating a revenue of over 2 billion per annum, and also seeking to expand into more areas. So when you're starting out, it's very important for you to know that avoid chasing too many goals. Focus on something you are very, very good at. Then later you can now expand to other areas. When you do this, one of the advantages is that your resources will not be stretched when you're focused, and you'll be able to have enough resources to push your objectives at the end of the day. If you don't do that, if you spread yourself to things, you're doing so many things, you get yourself stretched out, you'll be burnt out, your staff will be burnt out, and you'll not have enough resources to actually push your agenda and your objectives at the end of the day. So the way to go about it is to prioritize ruthlessly. Prioritize ruthlessly what is the most important. Out of all this business line, which one is the most strategic, that will be the most profitable, and we will establish ourselves in the market for that purpose. We'll be known for it. We can now diversify into other areas. And that's what you're going to do differently. Then set smart goals. Goals that are smart are goals that are specific, that are measurable, that are achievable, they are relevant, and they are time-bound. Those are the goals that you need to set for your business. And once you do this, you find out that focusing on what are your strengths, you can now move to other things as you gain traction. The second mistake, major mistake that businesses make in executing their strategy, is execution gaps. And the symptoms of that is brilliant plans on paper, but very poor alignment on who does what and when it should be done. So a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders, a lot of leaders, a lot of C-suite executives are good at writing papers. They can come up with brilliant plans. We're even now in the age of AI. You can just give it a very good prompt to give you well-worded, reports and all that. But at the end of the day, who is going to be responsible for pushing the needle? for driving it, for actualizing it. So there must be a proper alignment between what is on paper that is brilliantly written and to the actual execution, and who is going to do it, when are the timelines, and how that person will be appraised. If you don't do this, for people that miss execution gaps, at the end of the day, 90% of the strategies will fail in implementation and execution. That's the truth. And when that happens, it will not be a fault of design. Design was perfect. Everything worked well on paper, but execution, timelines were not met, and ownership is missing in driving it to actually happen. So the major challenge that people have with execution is usually, number one, ownership. Leaders must, own the outcomes. You must get your team together, get them to buy into the plan, into the vision, and let them own it, and let them accept accountability and responsibility for deliverables and KPIs. The second is governance. You want to make sure that you do regular reviews and set clear KPIs, and make sure that you are able to intervene correctly when things go out of line. And the culture, encourage a good culture that is always fast to fail forward and also adapt quickly in the market. Indecisiveness will not make you make good decisions and learn. So if you want to learn so much about that, our first and second episode dealt so much with indecisiveness and how you as a leader should make decisions quickly. So ownership, governance, and culture are the things you need to take to cognizance when you want to execute properly. So make sure that plans are not just brilliant on paper. People have bought into those plans. They have owned the plans. They have accepted accountability and responsibility and deliverables at the expected time. And you as a leader now step in when things go out of line and make sure you steer the ship back to the center. So take care of ownership, governance, and culture, and you will be able to address execution gaps. The third major mistake and reasons why most business strategies fail is ignoring market dynamics, like I said at the beginning, during the overview. The market is a field, it's like a sport field. Just imagine a field of football. You are a side, you have an opponent, they have 12 players, and at the end of 90 minutes, somebody has to win the game. That's the goal. At every point in time, the ball is moving. It's either it's moving against you or it's moving against your opponent. So the market is always moving. The market is always dynamic. All your competitors are always moving, and they're striking against you. They're looking at opportunities to undermine you, to actually take over your business, take over your territories, rule over your customers, and actually expand and increase their market share. So the idea is that you can't ignore the market. You can't do that, And one of the challenges that people face is that a lot of leaders, a lot of CEOs, a lot of companies assume yesterday's customers' preferences. They assume that yesterday's customers' preferences, regulations, technologies, and business processes will hold tomorrow. That's not true. Everything is always moving. No regulator owes you to leave the regulation the way it is. Even the regulator is trying to innovate. They think differently at times. They change the regulation, they change the requirements. So you must be ready for change at every point in time. So the customers' preferences are changing, their tastes, what they desire, what they like is changing. The regulator is also changing their requirements. Technology is changing at any time. So you must be ready. You cannot assume that the customer preference of yesterday, the regulation of yesterday, or the technologies that has been established in the business will remain as status quo. Things will continue to change, and you must be ready. And when you're not ready, what happens to a business, to a leader, even in your personal career, if you are a chief executive or a leader, is that you become obsolete. And competitors will seize the lead, and you'll be left behind at the end of the day if you're not careful. So the way to handle this is to make sure that you are doing a continuous environmental business environment scanning. Your personal analysis becomes very important here. Political, environmental, social, technology, and all that. And legal framework. You want to make sure you are doing your continuous scanning. You're doing regular market research, trend mapping, tender analysis, competition analysis. Check out what your competitors are doing, what is happening in the market, and be able to preempt what is going to happen next. Because most of the time, the signs will be there. Things will not just happen in the vacuum. Before government changes regulation, changes law, most of the time they will start talking about it. You have signs. You must have your ear to the ground, and you must continue to be researching and checking out what is happening and eliciting what the changes might be. Even you yourself, put yourself in the shoe of the government. There is need to change some regulation at point in time when you see some signs, in the environment. The second is flexible planning. Build, in pivot points, and make sure that you build into your plan contingency paths so that when things come up, you can easily pivot. You can now adopt your scenario planning and do what you have envisaged could go wrong and how you intend to manage it. Nobody owes you stability. Nobody owes you status quo. The floor will continue to shake and change. You have to be able to plan flexibly and make sure you are ready for change and pivot when it's necessary. The third way to prevent or to manage market dynamics is stakeholder feedback. You have to be continually engaging your customers. Have a good relationship with your customers. Don't be far from your customers. Even as a CEO, as a leader, relate with the customer at the top. You must be one-on-one with the CEO of the customer. If you want to be close to your customer as a CEO, while your team is managing the key stakeholders, you relate at the top with the CEO or the board of the company and make sure that you keep it close, and build rapport with them, engage your customers, and encourage your frontline teams, your leaders, to engage with customers regularly and early and respond to feedback from the customers. Those are the ways that you can actually make sure that business strategies do not fail by making sure that you focus on your strength, avoid changing too many goals at the beginning, make sure that you manage execution gaps properly and you execute properly, and make sure that you do not ignore market dynamics. And as you do this, you'll be able to achieve more with your strategy. And the strategy, because the market keeps changing, like I said, your strategy will need to be flexible. You have to keep reiterating. When you find areas that need improvement, adjustments, for example, technology, customer preferences, regulations, and things like that, you have to have a built-in system whereby you keep iterating as you move. Fail forward quickly, learn, get up, and move. That's the way to go in business. And as you do this, you continue to stay ahead of the competition and you'll be able to adapt and manage the changes better. We'll come to the real life case study section of the video. We're talking about two case studies. The first one, we're talking about Starbucks in Australia, what they did, the challenge they faced, and how they handled it. And the second case study for this video, we're talking about IBM's turnover under Leo just now. These two case studies, let us look at how businesses in challenging times manage their business strategy and were able to stay on course. So the first case study is on Starbucks in Australia. The CEO at that time was Howard Schultz. And the challenge they were facing at that time in Australia was he had done a rapid rollout of about 84 stores from around the year 2000. They rolled out rapidly to 84 stores without adapting to Australia's, mature cafe culture. Every country has its own culture. So in international business, you have to realize that if you are going to a territory, you can even apply it even locally within a country. If you are going to a new territory, Try and find out what is unique about that territory. Is there something about the consumers' preferences, like I said earlier, their culture, the way they approach the service or the product you want to provide to them, and adapt that into your business strategy for that territory. This happens locally, in regions, in territories. There might be different preferences of customers. And it's more important internationally when you are breaking out international, you're going to a new region, a new country. You need to understand the culture of that country. So they rolled out rapidly 84 stores without really adapting and understanding the culture of the Australians and how they want to use their cafes, you know. So what did they do wrong? Their prices were very high. Their menu was generic, and they brought in a one-size-fits-all model, which annihilated local customers and their preferences in Australia. Because something has worked in the US doesn't mean it's going to work in Australia. And this is what they learned, quickly. And by fast forward 8 years later, by July 2008, they had closed about 61 out of the 84 stores they opened in 2000. And they had recorded a loss of, a net loss, a massive net loss in the business by the second quarter of 2008. The lessons learned was that, global brands must think global, but act local. If you're going to a territory like I explained, you must think local to that territory. It might be in a smaller region within a country, or might be another country. Think global, but act local. You have to conduct very deep, surveys, analysis, do focus groups in areas you're going to, do a very due diligence on the preference of the customer, the regulatory requirements before you pilot, And when you pilot, you test all these things based on the information you have. Then when that works, then you can now scale it. All this has to be done quickly, and you must be prepared to iterate. You must be prepared to make adjustments as market dynamics present themselves to you. So that's what they faced. And in resolving it, they had to rethink the strategy. They had to actually go back to the drawing board and withdraw the strategy. And they were able to address those challenges. The second case study is about IBM and the challenges they had, during the phase of turnaround when the CEO was being led by Liu just now. And the problem started in 1992. The company was making a lot of losses and made a loss of about 8 billion, annually at that time. Their market capitalization had plunged from about $105 billion to about $32 billion. At that time, the company was product-centric, their verticals, had failed, and they were facing rising demand, for integrated services at that point in time in the industry. So what the CEO did, what you just now did was, he made sure he kept the company intact. He abandoned plans to break it because he had a lot of, pressure to break the company into pieces, to fragment the company, sell subsidiaries, break it up and all that, and preserve the entities that were making money. So he resisted how to do that. He preserved the company and its integrated structure. What he did was to focus on cost reduction. He sold non-core divisions that were not core to the business. Remember, we said at the beginning of this video that you have to have your focus. Look at the area that is very profitable, you want to be known for, you want to differentiate yourself in, and focus in that area and excel in that area before you pivot. So he went back to base. He sold non-core divisions. He focused on core divisions. They were most profitable. They were very strategic for the company. And he reduced the headcount from about 405,000 workers globally to 225,000 workers by 1995. And the last thing we did was to build a global services arm for the company. And he acquired PwC Consulting in 2022. So by doing that, we were able to turn around the challenges the company were having and the company returned to profit. From 1992, they were having challenges. 2 years later, in 1994, they returned to profit with $3 billion as profit that year. And by 2002, the market capitalization had soared from something that dropped to $32 billion in 1992 had increased to $160 billion at the end of 2002. Because of these three actions that he took, he kept the company intact. By the same time, he sold some non-core divisions and reduced the headcount of the company to save costs. And he built a global services arm, acquired a consulting company to help with the strategy and to deploy it. And the company returned to profitability in 1994. By 2002, the market capitalization has surpassed what it was before 1992 to more than $68 billion. So the lesson to learn from this is that, bold structural decisions, ruthless cost management, and a unified vision can revive even the largest dead elephant of a business. You have to be audacious when you face those problems. Take a very, very decisive action. Those actions can be very costly. They can be very, very tough, but you have to take it. Even in your career as a C-suite leader, as a CEO, there are times that you have to be faced with a tough decision. You have to take a very good decision to actually go ahead and do something new. Maybe start your own business, pivot into something else, walk away from a board that is not, going anywhere, that is not constructive, and make a good decision to actually move forward. Because the truth about it is that it's not every situation you can change that can be under your control. So you have to decide what is the best decision I can take in this situation, given the situation I'm faced with and the strength I have and what I believe I can work. So you have to be bold about your decision. The decisions have to be structured. You have to be ruthless at times, cutting costs where you have to do that. Then come back, bring the team together, and make sure you drive a unified vision that can revive the company at the end of the day. And with that, you'll be able to prevent the business strategies from failing. So the next segment is to look at questions that have been asked. Some of these questions, I've taken note of them from one-on-one CEO coaching that I do for CEOs and C-suite leaders. In business strategy sessions I've held for boards of companies. The kind of questions that come out is the questions I'll be answering in this section. And the first one is, how can I decide which initiatives deserve my top priority as a leader, as a founder, as a CEO? And my own answer to that is to look at the dynamics of your effort or your impact, your effort and the impact that effort is going to generate. And that's what is referred to as the impact effort matrix. The impact effort matrix, So look at your initiatives, look at the things you want to achieve, look at the things you want to do, and look at the return on investment. Look at your time, the value is going to bring to the company, and real return on investment for the business, for the company. How do you think that this is going to, generate value for you at the end of the day? So you look at the initiatives, you compare with the expected return on investment, and you also compare with the complexity. So if you look at initiatives, the expected return on investment, look at the complexity, you're able to make a decision at the end of the day using the impact effort matrix on what to go after, what to focus on. For example, that's how companies and leaders decide what will be the quick wins, what will be your strategic bets, things that you want to focus on and take a bet on and move, and you'll be able to build momentum from that when you can take a decision by analyzing your impact and effort and, looking at the relationship between the two and take a decisive action so that you can move fast. The second question is, my team resists new strategic processes. How do I get a buy-in? So if your team is resisting strategic processes, new ones, the way to get their buy-in is to make sure that at the beginning of that initiative, you co-create with your team members. That's how you get their buy-in. You need to design a strategic plan and things like that. It has to be designed with a team. That's how you get their buy-in. You have to set the vision, let them understand the vision, let them understand it, accept it, buy-in. Then you develop the plans together as a team. So co-create with your stakeholders and get their buy-in on the roadmap. Then later you solicit input. You do it very early too. You solicit input, you continue to communicate on the why. Why is this being done? What's the importance of this strategy? And at the end of the day, you highlight the role of every individual in the success of that strategy. That's why the buy-in will come in, because they have to see themselves in how that strategy is going to be achieved. From then, you can now build champions who will now serve as the evangelists, in achieving that strategic goal across all your departments, in the company. That's how to do it. The third one is, what is a good cadence for strategy reviews? What's a good routine or schedule for strategic reviews? You can do it weekly within your team, do weekly meetings, review meetings, where you look at things, you have a dashboard, metrics you are checking. You can do your meetings weekly. Or when you want to review the KPIs, I would advise you do it monthly, very thorough review of KPIs where you are on the roadmap, and if there are any variances and what can be done to make sure that everything gets back on track. You can also do quarterly business reviews, revisit the strategy goals, look at the market shifts, resource allocation, look at the KPIs and make sure everybody's on course. And you can also do annually. If you run a liability company, of course, limited liability company, you have to have board meetings, which I will recommend with quarterly. Well, with the management team, you can meet with them weekly and do business reviews monthly. Then annually, you cannot do what I'll call an annual retreat or business strategy retreat. It can be at the board level, it can be at management level, where you now refresh, you validate your vision, allocate budgets, and you reset priorities for the next year. And this is where annual budgets come to play. The fact that you need to be prepared ahead of time before the end of the year to prepare for the next year. So weekly for management teams, monthly thorough business reviews, quarterly at the board level, then annually to retreat, to refresh, and to set strategy for the next year. And your budget for the year comes in handy with this. The fourth question is, how do I ensure my strategy stays relevant in a fast-changing market or a dynamic market? And I like this a lot because I love the dynamism of the business environment. And the answer to this, my own take on this is, you need to have an agile strategy, and an approach. You need to have an agile strategy and approach. You have to be ready to iterate. You have to be ready to keep, failing forward and making adjustments along the way. And this must be embedded in your plans. And the way you do this is by doing regular market scans, scanning the environment to see what is changing, And when you do this, you can now implement these changes quarterly. You can have what we call pivot workshops, where you look at what has changed that is strategically affecting your business and what you can do to address it. And you can add, if you do that, then envisaging that you can adopt like a fund, a little resource that you can, I would call like an innovation fund, to test new ideas rapidly, fail forward quickly, and iterate, adjust your plans, and move on. I normally have what I call the innovation hub, bring my team together. We look at what has changed, what we can do differently. So it used to, that meeting, we used to hold monthly. We encourage a lot of team members to think out of the box, to think about solutions. They know they're going to meet another once more time at the innovation hub. So they are thinking of ideas that can help to improve the work and improve the business as they encounter challenges on their desk. So most of them are eager to bring it to the innovation hub. And that's how ideas that we're able to test run are gotten from. We test them quickly, we see whether it works, and we scale it up if it's required. Then the fifth and the last question I'm going to answer is, What common execution mistakes should I watch out for as a founder, as a leader, as a CEO, as a C-suite executive? And for me, there are three. Number one is when there's no ownership. Every project, every task must have a owner. There must be somebody accountable, to execute every task. So when you're building your SOPs, when you're designing your business process, doing your engineering, trying to improve your operational excellence, you must make sure that every task has somebody responsible, has somebody accountable, so that you can hold people accountable and there can be ownership to delivering that task. The second is vague metrics. Those are some of the challenges to watch out for in execution. Make sure that your metrics, your KPIs, the metrics are not vague. You have to define what is the goal and how that goal is going to be measured. And when is the least minimum time acceptable for achieving that goal. So there must be no lag indicators. You define what are the leading and the lagging indicators. So that when somebody achieves it on time, is within time. If it lags, start lagging behind, you also know what to look out for. So once it's not achieved within those specified period, you know that the project is already, getting out of focus. Then the third one is siloed updates. You want to make sure that you communicate properly and regularly from time to time. You want to make sure that you share progress transparently with your team via dashboards, via metrics, via your regular review meetings, whether it's weekly, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly. Make sure you are sharing updates, so that everybody is on the same page and nobody is left behind wondering where he's supposed to be and what he has not achieved. And that's how you manage it. You make sure that there's ownership to everything. There are no vague metrics. And you make sure that you share progress transparently via dashboards and your review meetings, your strategy review meetings, whether weekly, quarterly, annually, and all that. And make sure that everybody stays on point as you achieve the goal. So in conclusion, I want to encourage you as a leader to avoid these three fatal mistakes, and make sure that you keep your business strategy focused, executable, and adaptable. And the next step is that you want to make sure that you audit your current strategic plan. Because for you to get it right, you have to go back and audit the plan you have today. Look for the pitfalls, what are the loopholes, what are the challenges, what are the areas you think that you have not succeeded. Then you can now apply these guidelines to fix your business strategy from today. At this point, I would like to appreciate you if you have come to this point in this video. I want to say thank you for staying with us. Please comment in the comment section what you have done differently, whether you resonate with these ideas, with this guide, and tell us what you are doing differently to make sure that your business strategy stays on track. Also, tag the leader who needs to see this video and make sure that they actually learn from this video. And to make sure you get updates from us regularly, click on the subscribe button and make sure that you follow us, and you also follow the series, the leadership strategy, CEO leadership strategy series is being displayed on the screen right now. To my left is the subscribe button, and to my left is to my right is the playlist for this strategy series. A lot of episodes has gone that we have treated, and you're going to learn a lot from those episodes. So if you missed any of them, you can go back, watch it, and make sure that you stay updated. In case I mixed it up, I know the subscribe button and the playlist are on the left side of the screen as you're watching it right now. Click on it to subscribe, share to other leaders, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.